When a billionaire father watches a simple waitress gently hold his silent, disabled son, he doesn't just see a stranger, he sees the hope that will change all their lives forever. Mia worked at a small, quiet diner that stood on the corner of a busy street. It was an old place, with cracked floors, faded red booths, and a bell that jingled every time someone walked through the door. Most days, the customers were the same tired. Truck drivers, lonely old men, and regular workers who came in for coffee and a hot meal. Mia didn't mind the routine. She liked simple things. But deep inside, her heart carried a lot of sadness. She had been working there for 3 years now. Life hadn't been easy for Mia. When she was just 21, her parents had died in a car accident. One rainy night, they had gone out to buy her a birthday cake, and they never came back. That pain never left her. Now, she lived alone in a small apartment, working double shifts just to pay rent and keep the lights on. But even though life was hard, she smiled every day. She believed in kindness, even if the world wasn't always kind to her. Every day. She pinned her dark hair up, put on her apron, and welcomed strangers with a soft smile. No one really noticed her, but she noticed everyone. She remembered what customers liked to eat, who took sugar in their tea, and who always looked sad, but never said a word. Her kindness was quiet, but it was real. One cold, rainy evening, something unusual happened. The bell above the door jingled softly, and a man walked in holding a black umbrella. He wore a long coat, shiny leather shoes, and an expensive watch. On his wrist, his face was serious, eyes sharp, like someone who didn't smile often. Behind him was a boy in a wheelchair, wrapped in a thick jacket and a scarf. The boy didn't move much. He just stared down at his lap, his small hands resting on the wheelchair armrests. Mia looked up from the counter. She could tell right away that the man was rich. His clothes, his watch, his silence. He looked out of place in the old diner like someone who belonged in a glass office high above the city. But here he was, walking his son slowly to a booth by the window. She walked over politely, handing them menus. "Good evening, can I get you something to drink?" she asked softly. The man looked up briefly, then returned to his phone. "Just water," he said, "and a hot chocolate for him." Mia nodded and looked at the boy. His eyes were big and empty, like he was far away in his mind. He didn't speak, didn't even glance at her. Mia felt a small ache in her heart. She had seen sad children before, but something about this boy felt different. Like he wasn't just sad, he was lost. As she walked back to prepare their drinks, she kept glancing toward their table. The man hadn't said a word to his son. He was focused on his phone, tapping away, looking serious and distant. The boy sat quietly, staring out the window at the rain. After a few minutes, Mia returned with their drinks. "Here you go," she said, placing the hot chocolate gently in front of the boy. "Extra marshmallows? That's my favorite too." Still the boy didn't react. But as she turned to leave, she noticed something. His fingers twitched slightly. A small movement, like a soft spark, had been lit inside. The man didn't notice. He was too busy with a call now, speaking in a low, firm voice about meetings and deadlines. Later that night, as the diner emptied out and the rain got heavier, Mia saw the boy shiver slightly. The coat he wore was thin, maybe too wet from the rain. Mia walked to the back, pulled a clean, warm blanket from the staff room, and quietly returned to their table. "Hey, sweetheart," she said gently, kneeling beside him.
You're cold.
"Aren't you here? Let me help." She wrapped the blanket around him carefully. Her fingers were gentle, like she was handling something delicate and breakable. She smiled at him, even though he didn't smile back. "You don't have to talk," she whispered. "I know it's hard sometimes, but you're safe here, okay?" Suddenly something happened. The boy lifted his eyes very slowly, just a little. His eyes met Mia's for 1 second. It was barely a moment, but it felt like a miracle. Mia felt her heart squeeze. She didn't say anything else, just held his hand softly for a few seconds, then stood up and walked away. Across the table, the man Mr. Raymond Cole had seen everything. He had stopped speaking on the phone. He wasn't sure why, but something about the way this waitress had looked at his son. It touched something deep in him, had seen dozens of doctors, therapists, and specialists. They had all tried to fix his son. No one had connected with Nathan like that. No one had made him look up. Raymond didn't say anything that night. He simply paid the bill, nodded politely, and left the diner with his son. But something about Mia stayed in his mind. The next day, they came again. Same time, same booth. Mia noticed them immediately. She gave the same warm smile, brought them the same drinks. This time, when she gave the hot chocolate to Nathan, he blinked. It was small, but it was something. "Hello again," she said softly. Came back. I'm glad Raymond didn't say much. Simply watched. The visits continued. Every few days, sometimes every evening, Raymond brought Nathan to the diner. Sometimes they stayed for half an hour, sometimes more. And every time, Mia made sure to sit beside Nathan for a moment. Talk to him gently. Tell him stories about silly things that had happened at work, or describe the rain like it was magic. Falling from the sky, Nathan never answered. But he started reacting. Tiny changes. A little smile here, small nod. One time, he even reached out his hand toward her for a second, then pulled it back. Raymond noticed everything. And he began to ask himself a question he hadn't asked in years. Why is she the only one who can reach my son, who's a man of power, money, and success? He owned businesses across the country. People listened when he spoke, but at home, he was helpless. His son hadn't spoken in 3 years. Since the accident that took his wife, Raymond had buried himself in work, thinking that building empires would be enough. But it was. And now this simple diner waitress who didn't know him, didn't care about his money, had touched something in Nathan that no one else could. One evening, Raymond stayed after the meal. As Mia wiped down tables, he quietly walked up to her. "Excuse me," he said. She turned, surprised. "Yes." He looked uncomfortable. "I just wanted to ask. How do you do it?" Mia frowned. "Do what?" "With Nathan. My son. He doesn't respond to people, but he reacts to you." Mia smiled gently. "Just treat him like he's there, because he is. Maybe he can't talk, but he can feel. I think he's been lonely for a long time." Raymond paused. No one had ever said it like that before. "I've hired the best people," he said. "Paid millions. But you make him lift his eyes." Mia looked down. "Sometimes kids don't need doctors. They just need someone to look at them with love." Raymond couldn't answer. He just nodded slowly. That night, as he sat in his car with Nathan asleep in the back seat, Raymond looked at his son's face, peaceful, softer than usual. For the first time in years, Raymond Cole didn't feel like a billionaire. He felt like a father who had been lost, and who had just seen a small light in the darkness. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew this he would keep. Coming back to that diner because something magical had begun, and it had started with a waitress, a blanket, and a gentle touch. After that rainy evening, something quietly changed. Raymond Cole began to return to the diner again and again. Sometimes it was after his long office meetings. Sometimes it was in the evening, when the streets were dark and empty. And each time, he brought his son Nathan along, sitting quietly in his wheelchair, his small hands still and his eyes always looking down. Mia noticed. She noticed every time they walked in. Even though she was busy serving coffee, wiping tables, and rushing between booths, she always kept a part of her heart ready for that little boy in the wheelchair. Every time they came in, she welcomed them like old friends. "Hot chocolate?" she'd ask with a smile. Nathan never answered with words, but after a few visits, he began blinking once or twice when she said his name. She noticed it, right away. "That's a yes, right?" she'd whisper kindly. "I'll bring you extra marshmallows again." Raymond observed quietly. He always did. They never interrupted. But each time he saw Nathan blink, or move slightly, or raise his head just a little when Mia spoke, something pulled inside his chest. Like a wound that had been closed for years, but was slowly beginning to open and heal. Nathan had been silent. For a long time, ever since that terrible day, the car crash that killed his mother, he had gone completely quiet. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. The only sound Raymond had heard from his son in 3 years was quiet, breathing, and sometimes soft sobs in the middle of the night. When he thought no one was listening, doctors had tried everything. Therapists visited their home every week. Specialists from other countries were flown in, but nothing worked. They all had different names for Nathan's conditioned trauma: selective mutism, emotional shock. Raymond spent millions looking for answers, but not one of them could reach his son's heart. But here, in this small old diner with peeling wallpaper and a leaky roof, a young woman with a tired smile and gentle voice was doing what no one else could. Mia didn't ask questions. She never asked about Raymond's money, his fame, or his power. She never tried to act like she knew better. She just treated Nathan like a person, like a little boy who mattered. And slowly, something inside Nathan was waking up. One night, it was quiet in the diner. Few tables were still occupied, but it was calm. Raymond and Nathan sat in their usual booth by the window. The rain tapped softly against the glass outside, and the streetlights flickered in the puddles. Mia brought their drinks over coffee for Raymond, hot chocolate for Nathan. But this time, as she set the mug down in front of Nathan, something happened. He looked up, really looked up. His big, quiet eyes met Mia's, just for a second. Then he quickly looked down again. But it was enough. Mia froze for a moment, then slowly smiled. "Hi there," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Raymond had seen it too. He couldn't believe it. He stared at his son like he was seeing him for the first time. Mia sat beside Nathan for a moment. "You know," she said softly, "when I was little, I used to believe rain was music from the clouds. Do you think that's silly?" Nathan didn't answer, but his fingers twitched again. "You don't have to talk," she said. "You can just listen. That's enough." After a few minutes, Raymond spoke quietly from across the table. "He hasn't made eye contact in years," he said. His voice sounded strange, like it didn't belong to the powerful businessman he usually was. Mia nodded gently. Maybe he just needed someone to see him first. Raymond didn't know what to say. His whole life, people had obeyed him, listened to him, followed him. But now, he felt like a student sitting in front of a teacher. And that teacher was a woman who earned minimum wage and smelled like coffee and dish soap. Later that week, something even more surprising happened. It was a Saturday evening, and the diner was a little busier than usual. Mia was rushing around, serving tables. But she still found a moment to stop by Nathan's booth. "Hey there, little buddy," she smiled. "Guess what? Today a customer ordered a burger with no bun, no meat, and just pickles. Isn't that funny?" Nathan's lips twitched. Just a little. But it was real. A smile. It was so small that most people wouldn't have even noticed. But Mia saw it, and so did Raymond. He dropped his phone on the table, stunned. He smiled. He whispered. Mia grinned. Yes, he did. She sat down carefully. "You like silly stories, huh?" she asked Nathan. "Okay, then. One time, a man came in here with a chicken on his shoulder. I swear, the chicken wore a little blue hat. I tried not to laugh, but it clucked at me. This time, Nathan let out a sound. A very soft giggle, like air escaping through a balloon. But it was a sound. From him, Raymond covered his mouth with his hand, his eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them away quickly. Mia didn't react too much. She didn't want to scare Nathan. She just smiled like it was the most normal thing in the world. "You have a beautiful laugh," she said softly. That night, as they were leaving, Raymond walked up to Mia at the counter. He waited until the other customers had left. Then he spoke carefully. "You're the only person who's reached him. In 3 years, no one has made him smile." Mia looked down. "I'm not special," she said. "I just understand loneliness." Raymond looked at her closely. "You've been through something." Mia hesitated. Then she nodded. "I lost my parents a while back. In a car accident." Raymond's eyes widened slightly. "So did my wife," he said after a moment. That's when Nathan stopped talking. Stood in silence for a few seconds, two strangers connected by the same kind of pain. "I'm sorry," Mia said quietly. "Me too," Raymond replied. That night he didn't go straight home. He parked his car and sat for a long time, thinking. For years he had tried to forget, to bury himself in work, to replace love with success. But it hadn't worked. His son was broken, and maybe it was too. But something had changed now. The next week, he made a big decision. He waited until the diner closed one evening. Mia was stacking chairs, wiping tables. "Wanted to ask you something," he said. Mia turned, a little surprised. "Yes, I want to offer you a job." She raised her eyebrows. "I want you to become Nathan's personal caregiver, spend more time with him. Help him the way you've already started to." Mia looked shocked. "Mia? Looked shocked me? I'm just a waitress." "You're not just anything," Raymond said seriously. "You've done something no expert could do, made my son feel safe again." Mia hesitated. "I don't have any experience. I don't even have a degree." Raymond shook his head. "You have something more important. Heart." Mia looked at the floor. Her hands were trembling slightly. I don't know. I'll pay you well," he added. "But more than that, I'll give you time, resources, a place to stay. I just want my son to have a chance." Mia took a deep breath. She had never been offered anything like this. Her whole life had been about surviving, day by day. Now someone was asking her to become something more. She nodded slowly. "I'll try." Raymond smiled for the first time in years. "Thank you," he said. And just like that, their lives began to shift again. Not with big moments or loud changes, but with small, gentle steps. A quiet boy, a waitress with a soft voice, and a father finally learning what it meant to heal. Mia had never imagined herself living in a mansion. Her whole life had been spent in small apartments with leaky taps, old wallpaper, and noisy neighbors. But now, because of one boy and his quiet smile, her world was changing in a way she had never expected. When Raymond Cole asked her to become Nathan's caregiver, she had hesitated. She was afraid. She had no fancy education. She didn't come from money. All she had was a kind heart and the ability to notice what others ignored. But in the end, she had said yes. Not because of the offer, not because of the pay, but because of Nathan. Raymond sent a driver to pick her up the first day. As the car moved through the city and into the wealthy neighborhood, Mia looked out the window nervously. Tall gates, clean streets, and perfect lawns passed by. It all felt like a dream. Finally, the car stopped in front of a huge white house. With wide windows and a garden so large, it looked like a park. She stepped out slowly, holding a small bag with her clothes and a photo of her parents. Raymond greeted her at the door with a simple nod. He looked different here, less like a businessman, more like a tired father. Nathan was sitting in the living room, his eyes watching the window quietly. When he saw Mia, something flickered in his eyes. He didn't speak, of course, but his body relaxed slightly. Mia walked to him and knelt beside his wheelchair. "Hi again," she whispered. "I hope you didn't forget me." Nathan blinked once. Mia smiled. "Good. I missed you." Raymond watched the small moment unfold. Days in silence, ignoring people. But here was Mia, making him blink, relax, respond. It was something he still couldn't understand, but he didn't question it anymore. He just felt grateful. Mia started staying with them every day, arriving in the morning and staying until late evening. She helped Nathan with simple things, feeding, brushing his hair, reading stories to him. Sometimes she just sat beside him. In silence, and slowly, Nathan began to change. Not with big, loud moments, but in tiny, quiet ways. One morning, Mia brought him a box of crayons and paper. "Want to draw with me?" she asked. Nathan didn't answer, but she put the paper on the table anyway, and began to draw a sun with a smiling face. After a few minutes, Nathan reached for a crayon. His fingers were shaky, but he gripped the blue color and started making slow, wobbly lines. Mia watched with tears in her eyes. Raymond saw it too from the doorway. His son hadn't drawn anything. In years, the last time he had held a crayon was before the accident. Now, because of Mia, he was trying again. That evening, Raymond invited Mia to stay for dinner. She hesitated at first, but he insisted. The dining room was large, with a long table, silver cutlery, and candles. Mia felt nervous sitting in such a grand space, but Nathan was calm beside her. He reached for her hand under the table and held it gently. That single gesture made her feel like she belonged. During dinner, Raymond did something he hadn't done in a long time. He spoke, not about work, not about meetings, but about himself. When my wife died, he said softly, everything stopped. I didn't know how to be a father. Thought giving Nathan the best doctors, the best school, the best everything would be enough. Mia listened quietly. But it wasn't, he continued. Because what he really needed wasn't money. It was someone who saw him. You did that when no one else could. Mia looked down at her plate. He's easy to love, she said. Raymond nodded, emotion tightening his throat. You've done more for him in a few weeks than anyone in 3 years. Mia didn't know what to say. She had never been praised like this before. She had always felt invisible. But here, in this house filled with silence and pain, she had found a purpose. Days turned into weeks. Nathan kept improving, started responding with small gestures, a nod, a shake of the head, and a tiny smile when Mia told her silly stories. She would sometimes sing softly to him, and once, he even tapped the rhythm on his armrest. Raymond began spending more time at home. He started canceling meetings to be near his son. He would sit and watch as Mia helped Nathan do puzzles or play simple games. One afternoon, Mia invited Raymond to join them. Want to help us finish this elephant puzzle? She asked. Raymond looked unsure. I haven't done a puzzle since I was a kid. Then you'll be rusty like me, she said with a playful smile. He sat down beside them. For the first time in years, father and son worked together, placing tiny pieces of cardboard into shape. When they finished, Nathan looked at the completed elephant, then at his father. Dance. And then he reached out and touched his father's hand. Raymond froze, his eyes filled with tears. It was the first time Nathan had touched him since the accident. He gripped his son's small hand tightly, not saying a word. Mia sat quietly, knowing this was a moment that didn't need words. As the days passed, the house grew warmer, not in temperature, but in feeling. Laughter returned, even if soft. Light filled the rooms that had once been dark. Nathan even began sleeping better. His nightmares became fewer. His drawings became clearer. One day, he drew a picture of 3 people, a man, a woman, and a child. It was rough, with stick figures and uneven colors. But it made Raymond cry. Is this us? He asked. Nathan didn't answer, but he smiled. That night, something else changed. Raymond sat with Mia in the garden, watching Nathan play in the grass. Mia looked peaceful, her hair blowing gently in the wind. Why are you really helping us? Raymond asked suddenly. Mia looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? You could have walked away. You had no reason to stay. Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. When I lost my parents, I felt invisible, like no one cared. People saw me crying, but they didn't stop. I don't want Nathan to feel like that, ever. Raymond stared. At her? You're rare, Mia. She smiled. No, I just remember how it feels to be lost. He looked away, ashamed. I forgot how to be a father. You're learning, she said. He sees it. That's why he touched your hand. Raymond nodded slowly. A few days later, they were all sitting in the living room. Nathan was on the floor with crayons. Mia was telling him a funny story about a customer who brought a raccoon in a backpack to the diner. Raymond was laughing. Quietly, suddenly, Nathan giggled. A real happy giggle. It was louder than before. Then, as if pulled by some invisible courage, he said something. It was soft, barely a whisper, but it was clear. Mia. Raymond froze. Mia gasped. Nathan had spoken. After years of silence, he had said her name. She bent down to him. What did you say? Nathan looked at her and repeated Mia. Tears ran down her cheeks. She hugged him gently, and he didn't pull away. Raymond couldn't believe it. He covered his face, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, he felt hope, real hope. That night, after Nathan fell asleep, Raymond called Mia to the kitchen, poured her a cup of tea, and sat across from her. You've changed everything, he said. Mia shook her head. Nathan did the work. I just stayed. I want to do something for you, he said seriously. Something big. Mia looked confused. You don't have to. I'm just happy he's smiling again. Raymond leaned forward. It gave. My son, his voice back. Let me help you find yours. Mia looked down, not sure what he meant, but her heart was full. She had found something more valuable than money. She had found a family where she had never expected one. After Nathan's first words, life began to change faster for all of them. Atea had moved into the big house, becoming a part of their daily routine. Though she still worked part-time at the diner, her small escape from the grand world she now lived in most of her time was spent caring for Nathan. It wasn't an easy job. Nathan's needs were many, and progress came slowly. But every little step forward was a victory. The days started early. Mia would wake up before sunrise and quietly prepare breakfast while Nathan still slept. Then she gently woke him, helping him stretch his arms and legs. Raymond, who once barely spent time at home, now joined them for breakfast, trying to learn how to be a father again. It was strange for all three learning how to live together, not as strangers, but as a family. Nathan was still silent in many ways. But he began to communicate with small signs. Sometimes he pointed at things he wanted. Sometimes he smiled brightly when Mia sang to him. Once he even clapped his hands during a song. Mia kept encouraging him, never rushing, always patient. She believed that love was the best medicine. Raymond watched all this closely. He realized that money could buy comfort and treatment. But it couldn't buy the simple things Nathan needed: attention, kindness, patience. Mia was the one giving those things freely and without judgment. But it wasn't only Nathan's life that was changing. Mia's life was transforming in ways she never expected. The big house, the quiet gardens, the fancy clothes, it was all new to her. She often felt out of place. The other staff at the house, the drivers, the managers, they looked at her with curiosity, sometimes suspicion. To them, Mia was just a waitress from a small diner, suddenly thrown into a world of wealth and power. Gossip started to spread quietly among the staff. Why is the billionaire's son's caregiver so young, so simple? Some whispered. Do you think she's just after money? Others asked. Mia overheard some of the whispers, but tried not to let them hurt her. She focused on Nathan, on the little boy who had started to smile again because of her. She didn't care about gossip, but the pressure was real. Sometimes, when she felt alone, she thought about quitting. One afternoon, as she helped Nathan with his therapy exercises, Raymond walked in. He saw the tiredness in her eyes and sat down beside her. "You're doing better than you think," he said softly. "People may talk, but I see what you're doing. You're giving my son hope." Mia shook her head. "I'm scared. What if I fail him? What if I'm not enough?" Raymond took her hands in his. "You already are enough. You're the reason Nathan laughs. It's the reason he's here with us." That moment deepened their trust, but not all days were easy. One night Nathan fell very ill. A high fever, weakness, and nothing Mia could do helped. Raymond rushed him to the hospital with Mia by his side. For 72 hours, Mia stayed in the hospital room, never leaving Nathan's bedside. She held his hand, whispered encouragement, and kept watch as doctors worked hard to bring him back to strength. Raymond saw her sacrifice and love. He saw how she cared not because she was paid, but because she genuinely loved his son. He realized then that Mia was no longer just a waitress. She was family. When Nathan finally recovered, Mia was exhausted, but happy. She smiled at Nathan's peaceful sleeping face and felt a new strength within herself. That night, Raymond sat beside her. "You saved him," he said quietly. "Not just from the illness, but from the loneliness." Mia wiped tears from her eyes. "He saved me too. I never thought I could matter to someone like this." Raymond smiled, a soft, grateful smile. "I want to thank you. Properly." Over the next weeks, he made plans. The world knew Raymond Cole as a powerful billionaire. but now he wanted to be known as a man who gave back. He decided to start a foundation in Mia's name, a place where children like Nathan could receive care, love, and hope. A place where families could find support. When he told Mia, she was shocked. "I don't deserve that," she said. "I'm just a waitress." "No," Raymond said firmly. "You're the reason my son lives differently now. This foundation will be your legacy." Along with this, he gave Mia shares in his company, real shares worth millions. He bought her a new house in a quiet neighborhood, close enough to visit Nathan anytime she wanted. And he offered her the role of head of the foundation, to guide and lead the work that would help children and families like theirs. Mia struggled with the sudden change. She had lived a simple life, working hard and dreaming small. Now, she had money, power, and responsibility. She felt unprepared. But Nathan's smile gave her courage. Raymond's faith in her made her believe in herself. Months passed. Foundation opened its doors to many families. Mia worked tirelessly, sharing her story, helping others, and building a community of support. She visited the diner less often, but never forgot the place that shaped her. Nathan grew stronger every day. His laughter became louder. He began to speak more words, building sentences slowly but surely.
Ow.
Mia taught him to dance in the living room, to play outside in the sun, and to enjoy the small moments. Raymond was a changed man, left behind his cold business world more and more, choosing family over profit. He joined Mia at foundation events, sharing his story with the world, hoping to inspire others to love without conditions. The house was no longer a place of silence and pain. It was filled with music, laughter, and hope. One sunny afternoon, Nathan ran across the garden, arms wide open. Mia was waiting with a big smile. As he reached her, he shouted, "Mama Mia!" Tears filled her eyes. She picked him up and hugged him tightly. Raymond watched from a distance, tears streaming down his cheeks. He knew this was the greatest gift he could have ever received. Money couldn't buy this. Power couldn't force it. Only love made it real. Life had changed completely for Mia, Nathan, and Raymond. What started as small moments of connection in a quiet diner had grown into a powerful story of love, hope, and transformation. Nathan, once silent and distant, was now a lively boy who laughed, spoke, and reached out to those around him. Mia had become more than just a caregiver. She was family. Raymond had learned how to be a father again, and was determined to use his wealth not for business alone, but to make a real difference. One morning, the sun shone warmly through the tall windows of the big house. Nathan woke up, stretched his arms, and looked around. Mia was already there, preparing breakfast with a smile. Gosh. She had grown comfortable in this new life, though she never forgot where she came from. The simple diner where she had first met Nathan was still close to her heart. As Nathan sat down at the table, he looked at Mia with bright eyes and said clearly, "Mia, stay." The words filled the room with joy. It was the first time Nathan had asked someone to stay on his own, without prompting. Mia felt tears come to her eyes. She reached out and took his hand, squeezing it gently. Raymond watched quietly from the doorway. His heart was full. The boy who had once been so lost was now asking for love and presence. It was a miracle he had never thought possible. The day went on with laughter, play, and gentle conversations. Later, Raymond called Mia into his study. The room was lined with books and photographs of his family. He wanted to speak seriously. "Mia," he began, "you have given Nathan a life he never had before. I want to honor that." He reached into his drawer and pulled out papers, documents to create a foundation in Mia's name. "The Mia Foundation will help children like Nathan and families who need support. I want you to lead it." Mia was overwhelmed. She had never expected this. She shook her head, feeling unworthy. "I'm not sure I can do that. I'm just a waitress. I've never run a foundation." Raymond smiled kindly. "You've already done the hardest part, love. The rest we will build together." Along with this, he handed her a set of keys to a new home and shares in his company. This was a life-changing gift, far beyond anything Mia had imagined. But she knew she wanted to accept it, not for herself, but for the chance to help others like Nathan. The foundation grew quickly. Mia traveled to meet families in need, shared her story on television and social media, and worked with doctors and therapists to create programs that focused on love, patience, and connection, not just money and medicine. Nathan often joined her at events, his laughter bright and genuine. People saw the transformation in him, and they wanted to believe that miracles were possible. Mia's simple kindness had sparked something far greater than anyone expected. But Mia never forgot the diner where it all began. Sometimes she returned to visit old friends and to remind herself of her roots. The owner of the diner, an elderly woman named Clara, hugged Mia tightly the first time she came back. "You changed all our lives," Clara said softly. "We never knew you had such a heart," Mia smiled. "It was Nathan who changed mine." One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Mia sat with Raymond and Nathan in the garden. Nathan ran towards Mia with arms open wide, calling her Mama Mia again and again. Raymond watched, tears streaming down his face. He had learned that no amount of money or power could replace love and presence. Mia had given his son the world simply by holding his hand and believing in him. Their story became an inspiration, a reminder that kindness and patience can heal even the deepest wounds. That sometimes the most unlikely people become the greatest heroes. And for Mia, Nathan, and Raymond, life was no longer about loss or loneliness. It was about family, hope, and the power of love that changes everything.